It is an honor today to welcome you to the second edition of the World Ayahuasca Conference here in Rio Branco, Brazil. In this first session, we will listen to 5 presentations on neurological and therapeutic effects of ayahuasca. After each presentation, we'll have a couple of minutes for questions from the audience. And as the first, I would like to invite Aline Viol from the Federal University of Viçosa to talk about the effects of ayahuasca on the human brain. Aline, the stage is yours.
Good morning. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here today. So, my presentation is not here. My name is Aline, I'm a physicist, and I would like to present, let me just put here. I would like to present some results of my research of the effects of ayahuasca in the human brain activity. So, my challenge was to try to understand how ayahuasca changed the behaviors of the functional brain networks. To do that, I use statistical physics tool, mainly complex network theory concepts. So, let me begin introducing what is complex network. In few words, we can understand that a complex network is an easy way to represent the relationship of many elements of a complex system and study its emergent behavior. So, let me see. Each element of the system is represented by a node, and the relationship of this between two pairs of nodes is represented by a link. In mathematical notation, we represent that by a matrix that you call adjacency matrix. So, when two nodes are connected by a link, the element of matrix receives 1, and if 2 nodes are not connected, the element of matrix receives 0. So this way is a mathematical notation to represent a network that you use to work in computational staffs. But how we can extract the functional brain network of the human brain? Today, there is several of non-invasive neuroimaging techniques that is able to map in the brain activity in a good resolution. One of them is the functional magnetic resonance image that we use in our work, in our research. In few words, it is a mapping, a three-dimensional map of brain activity evolved in the time. So, the nodes of our network that we would like to map will be composed by the cortical region. So we divide the brain in cortical regions according as a probabilistic human cortical brain atlas, and each cortical region will be represented by a node in the network. We are interested in the relationship between the activity of all pairs of nodes. So this relation is that we use to define the links of our networks. So to do that, we extract the signal of each cortical region, and we calculate the correlation between signal of all possible pairs of regions, creating this way a correlation mapping. So for each sample, we have a correlation map. And we extract the networks from this correlation map. What do? You create a threshold where above this value, this tree showed if two nodes that are correlated with a value greater than this threshold, they will receive a link. This way, to avoid the loss of information, we define several different correlations, creating network with different densities. This way, we have a set of adjacency matrices for each sample. So our data set is composed for fMRI data of 7 healthy volunteers. Each one take 120 to 200 milliliters of ayahuasca, and they was scanned in 2 fMRI sections, one before and another 40 minutes after ayahuasca ingestion. In both sessions, they was required to stay just lying with the eyes closed without do any test and without sleep. I can summarize our pipeline in the following steps. So we have the 2 sets of data, one before ayahuasca intake and another during the ayahuasca effect. We did a traditional pretreatment, and we divide each brain image in 104 cortical regions to create the nodes. We calculate the Pearson correlation between the meal signal of each pair of regions, and from this correlation map, we extract the complex functional network. We characterize this network and compare before ayahuasca intake and after ayahuasca intake. So today I would like to report the following results. We found that the network of the subjects after ayahuasca intake presents an increase of channel entropy. They also present an increase of clustering coefficient and an increase of local efficiency. These 2 measurements reflects the increase of local integration in the network of the brain. In an opposite way, we also observe a decrease of a global integration that is reflected by the increase of geodesic distance and the decrease of global efficiency. I consider that one of the most interesting results is the increase of channel entropy. So I would like to focus a little bit more in it today. So channel entropy is a measurement of uncertainty of the system. It reflects the availability of the states that's for this system. I have here a simple example to illustrate. The dice of 6 faces has less configurations possible than the dice of 8 faces. So when you calculate the entropy of both, we can see that the entropy of the dice of 6 faces has lower entropy than the dice of 8 faces, because the dice of 8 faces has more configurations. So we calculate the channel entropy of our network by means of the degree distribution. The degree of a node is the number of connections that each node does with another node in the network. So we can realize that if you have a network where all nodes have the same degree, we have one of few possibilities of configurations. So you have a low degree. In another way, if you have a large diversity of network, of degrees, you have a more variability of patterns or more variability of configuration. So you have a high entropy. So let's see what's happening in our network. This squares represents the average of the entropy for our subject. In blue, we have the curve for before ayahuasca intake, and in green for after ayahuasca intake, for different mean degree, that is different density of connectivity, network density. So we can see that for all comparisons, we have an increase of the entropy in the mean. The same thing we can see when we analyze the subject individually. So we can see that the entropy increases for all subjects. So another point that I would like to talk to you is, let's put here. But we compared the metrics that you get from our networks with the psychological state. The volunteers was evaluated for this psychometric state, CADS, that analyze the dissociative states. It's like a kind of the sensation of despersonalization, this stuff. So when you correlate the variation, the increase of dissociative states after minutes before ayahuasca intake, when you correlate it with the difference in our metrics, we note that the metrics that is related with the reduction of global integration is highly correlated with the increase of the dissociative states than another metrics. Another point that draws our attention is that despite the difference of the entropy, not to be so high to correlate with the increase of dissociative states, the entropy before ayahuasca intake is high correlation. So it suggests that the entropy of the network of the subject before intake ayahuasca may influence in its experience. I should highlight that it is a pretty small sample, so we cannot get a conclusion from that, but it's a nice indicator for future investigation. So the entropic brain, the study of entropic brain is not new. Recently, it was proposed by Carhart Harris and collaborator a hypothesis that they call entropic brain hypothesis. So they argue that psychedelic states should have a higher entropy in some aspects of the brain than ordinary state. So, secondly, the psychedelic state is a primary state of consciousness, whereas the ordinary state, that is the state of the social human, adult human, is a secondary state. And the secondary state is keeping by suppression of the entropy. So, in some way, the psychedelic help to break this suppression of entropy and allow the subject experience this primary state. That is more possible, a primitive human, flexible minds. So, to conclude, the functional brain network mapped after ayahuasca intake presents considerable changes in its topology. This variation occurs in that way that the increase of possibilities of configurations, and we saw that a global integration of the brain network decreases, and whereas the local integration increases. So, these results open some questions that I would like to let you think about. One is, may magic feelings and increase of creativity caused by increase of entropy? And may sensation of ego disintegration or oceanic feelings related to the reduction of global integration? So, this is my collaborator, Fernanda Palhano, Heloisa Onias, Draulio B, Irina Rich, Guilherme Keck, and Viswanathan. Thank you.
So if anyone has any questions for Aline, that's the time to ask. We are still waiting for the microphone to arrive for the audience, so I would ask you to stand up, speak loud, and, well, ask the question. Anyone? can answer to the microphone.
Okay. He is asking if you are going to repeat this work with more subjects. I intend. I'm a physicist. I work with Professor Draulio. We really intend to do that, but it should to be planned yet. Yeah. But you need to do it, not, because 7 subjects is not too much. Yeah. Welcome. Correctly?
With default mode network, with your research. How do you...
Yeah. No, the purpose of this research was exactly does not work with previous networks that you use in literature. So I'm a physicist, and you was try to look at the brain as a complex system. So looking at it with as a complex network, which kind of behavior may emerge of it? So we try exactly do a different way, you know?
Hello, Jane.
Okay.
From Denmark. Just a question, could you explain what you mean by primary state of consciousness and secondary state of consciousness?
Yeah, sure. So the primary state of consciousness is a consciousness of the human, the primitive human. It would be related as a tried, but more a non-social woman, a not trained human. So it's, in my understanding, is when we are receiving the training in the society, the normal training to live in society, we start constraining our brain. It's necessary, but we start constraining our brain. That they call of secondary state. So the entropy may be seen as a measure of lack of constraints. So if you have, in primary state, we have a lack of these constraints. So in some way, the psychedelic can help to break this constraint temporarily, and after it came back. It's okay?
Your dose of ayahuasca was in milliliters. Did you also analyze it so you know how much was the dose and what the constituents?
Yes.
So you have this data, yes?
I have this data. I don't have it here, but I have. And I did memorize it. But I have it. We can talk. Okay. So about that question, what I have is the psychometric scales that measure this behavior, but in global way. I was not in the acquisition. I received the data, it just analyzed. But we have this psychometric scale that I talk about, and you have some others that measure this general state, but by numbers. I don't know if you have really. I don't know. No. My ideas, yeah. About the entropy, about.
Your subjects, if you talk to them, if they spontaneously said to you, oh, I have this huge creative idea of a problem that I had, or nothing?
Yes. I don't know. I'm a physicist, but maybe this question, because the question of the increase of entropy, for me, may be relating with the increase of creativity, because the point is that we have a network more free, so we can have more configuration. At the same time, the brain regions is less integrating of the global influence. So we have more degree of freedom in the system. So maybe that is possibility the new state of mind.
Thank you, Aline. We have to move on. As next, I would like to invite Antonio Inserra from the Flinders University, Australia, to give us an insight into the biological mechanisms that could explain the beneficial effects of ayahuasca on the healing process of traumatic memories. Antonio, the word is yours.
Hi everyone, thanks for being here today. I don't have any results, but I will be suggesting some ideas and some hypotheses that could be tested in the near future and could give more insights on the mechanisms of healing of ayahuasca. So just a little bit about what I'm doing now at the moment. So I'm studying my PhD, and I'm looking at modulation of inflammatory mediators in the treatment of major depression. So the questions that I'm trying to answer are if targeting immune mediators can be a good strategy in the treatment of depression, if stress and targeting immune mediators affect the gut microbiota, which is the bacteria that live in the stomach, and what is the role of the gut microbiota in brain function and dysfunction. I will present my hypothesis straight away, and then I will give some background information and ways in which this hypothesis could be tested. So this is a view of memory, how it is understood to work now. So at the beginning, in the past, the idea was that the memory was a fixed entity, and there was, once the memory was encoded, there was no way that the memory could be changed. But the novel view is that the memories can actually be reactivated and therefore made labile, which means that they can undergo changes. And therefore, the memory can be updated. And if we consider this process in relation to traumatic memories, so when someone experiences trauma, then the memory is consolidated as a traumatic memory. But what can happen is the memory can be reactivated, and this is where I'm trying to go with this hypothesis. So my hypothesis is that activation of sigma-1 receptor via DMT binding can reactivate the traumatic memory, and this is because sigma-1 receptor activation has anti-amnesic effect, and we will go into more details in a second. Then the memory, when this memory is brought up, it is re-experienced within a positive neurotransmitter milieu, which means that the neurotransmitters available in that specific moment are positive neurotransmitters, because ayahuasca increases the amount of these available neurotransmitters. And what happens, my hypothesis is that at this point, the fear memory is canceled, and since the memory was experienced with a positive connotation, now the memory can be reconsolidated with a lesser traumatic connotation. And my idea is that there could be epigenetics mechanisms involved. No one has looked at this yet. Hopefully someone will. Hopefully we can create some collaborations. But I think it's something that would be worth exploring. Just a little bit about post-traumatic stress disorder. So when someone experiences very stressful situations, there can be long-lasting effects that can last for the whole life. And the way the traumatic memory is stored is different from the way normal memories are stored. Something that PTSD patients experience is avoidance, which means not thinking about the memory, not because they don't want to think about it, but because it's more difficult to access that memory. There is one aspect of PTSD called dissociative amnesia, which is a kind of a memory loss associated with a traumatic event. So the memory is kind of blocked out. And one of the hypotheses that is out in the literature is that this can happen through epigenetic mechanisms that coil the DNA of the neurons where the memory is stored in a more than normal memories. So my idea is that following ayahuasca ingestion, DMT activates this receptor, sigma-1 receptor, which helps retrieve the forgotten traumatic memory. Sigma-1 receptor is a very interesting receptor. It's very different from any other protein found in mammalian cells. And it only has little homology with human proteins, but has a high homology with an enzyme found in fungi, which is responsible for the production of ergosterol. It is a crucial modulator of homeostasis and cell survival and can be found in high concentration in limbic areas, but really it is throughout the brain and the body, and interacts with many other receptors and intracellular proteins, and it triggers many intracellular cascades. And one of the receptors, one of the channels, transmembrane channels that it interacts with is voltage-gated ion channels. And one of these channels, the calcium channel, when it is activated, it creates an influx of calcium in the neurons, which activates the neuron itself. And this could be part of the way in which DMT can help retrieve this memory by activating the neurons in which this memory is stored. These are just a couple of studies that were performed in rats, in which the authors found that sigma-1 receptor activation by molecules that are not DMT, but are other molecules, is beneficial. So it improves reference and working memory, reverse learning deficits, and reverse cognitive impairment. And overall, it has anti-amnesic effects. The bottom study also looks at markers of Alzheimer's disease, but that's a complete different field of research. So my idea is that sigma-1 receptor activation can have anti-amnesic effects, retrieving and reactivating the memory. A little bit about the brain areas that are involved in ayahuasca, in the ayahuasca effects. So many of the areas that are activated are involved in emotions and negative emotions, and thinking and semantic tasks, emotional regulation, error perception and processing of sadness, and emotional arousal. So I think that in these areas, this is where we need to look at for PTSD and the healing of traumatic memories. What I found interesting is that on the right, we can see a study that was done in patients with dissociative amnesia, and they have a decreased activity in certain parts of the prefrontal cortex, which are hyperactivated following ayahuasca ingestion. And this could also explain why people with PTSD can have profound benefits from ayahuasca ingestion. The second part of the hypothesis is that when this memory is retrieved, it is re-experienced in a different way, which is not as traumatic. So this is a study that was done in rats again, and the authors found that there is, you can see in the middle panel, there is an increased concentration of noradrenaline, dopamine, and serotonin in the amygdala, and this could be part of the reason why the memory is experienced with a different connotation, almost as a neutral memory or maybe almost as a positive memory. And I think what's interesting is that when people report their experience with ayahuasca, some people do still experience a fear response. So they have a fearful journey, but other people do not have such an experience and experience their experience in a more neutral way. So this is a summary of my hypothesis. So sigma receptor activation by DMT retrieves the traumatic memory. It could be in two ways. One is calcium influx in the neurons that store the memory, that activates them. And the other one is epigenetic effects on the DNA of the neurons that contain the memory. And I will go into a little bit more details in a second. Since there are increased positive neurotransmitters in the amygdala, the amygdaloid fear response is not triggered, and therefore the memory is experienced as normal. At the same time, the activation of brain areas which are involved with extinction of fear response and amygdaloid fear are activated, and this could be part of the extinction process of the traumatic memory, or also called the extinction of conditioned fear. And the last step, which could go in different ways. So the current understanding of memory is that when a memory is re-experienced, the new memory is stored as a new memory, and the old memory is still there, so they coexist. But this is not clear. Some people think that the same memory can be changed, and the memory goes back in the same neurons where the memory was stored to begin with. But what's interesting, I think, is that when after ayahuasca ingestion, when the memory is retrieved, there is no such fear response anymore. So I thought that there could be an involvement of epigenetics. This is from several lines of evidence in the literature, from personal experience and from ideas that I've discussed with other people. So what is known is that the memory is stored in the DNA of selected neurons via epigenetic modifications of the DNA. On the right, there's a bit of an overview of what epigenetics is. So there are actual physical modifications in the DNA structure which do not affect the sequence of the DNA, but that change the way DNA is situated in space. And there is a certain consensus amongst scientists that traumatic memories are epigenetically more repressed, and therefore the DNA in which the memory is stored is more coiled on itself. And some people think that this is why it is more difficult to remember them. So my idea is that ayahuasca might change the epigenetic signature of these neurons in which the traumatic memory is stored by removing actual physical and chemical groups that affect the structure of the DNA itself. And this could make the memory less hidden, more accessible, and easier to work with. So this is, so far I've talked about emotional memory, but I think that this could be a mechanism that applies to a number of situations, of conditions, or of, if we want to call them diseases, that in which epigenetics memory and cellular memory are affected, and which really represents a wide number of diseases which go from autoimmune diseases to neurodegenerative disorders, asthma, allergies, and a number of different diseases. Other mechanisms involved that could be involved. This is a study that was published recently on how MDMA can facilitate fear extinction learning, and basically they found there's a bit missing. They found that there is increased activation in the amygdala, and there's an increased level of BDNF, which is a neurotrophic factor which could be involved in the reorganizing of the memories. Where can we go next, and what studies can be done to test this hypothesis? We could do studies on PTSD patients before, during, and after ayahuasca ingestion to see if if the deficits in their brain can change following ayahuasca. We could study memory retrieval, recontextualization in humans. This cannot be done at the moment. We don't have the technology to do it, but hopefully in the near future this will be possible. And to test the epigenetics effect of ayahuasca, it could be quite easy to study the epigenetic signature in preclinical models of PTSD before and after ayahuasca treatment. This approach is quite expensive, but it could really give a lot of information and explain a mechanism of healing of ayahuasca. One thing that I thought would be quite obvious, but it hasn't been done yet, would be to study the composition of the vomit and of the fecal material that can be induced by ayahuasca. And I think that if ayahuasca brings changes in, for example, DNA or epigenetics, this could be actually, we could find a sign in these materials. And I just want to thank my friend Dennis Schiaroli, which couldn't be here today. He's in California, but he really helped me coming up with these ideas. So thanks to him, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Antonio. In the meantime, the microphone arrived, so if you have any questions, raise the hand.
Hello, I would like to ask if during this experiment was suggested that the individuals think about the fear or the problem to achieve this result?
First thing, this wasn't an experiment, but these are just ideas and hypotheses. Personally, I think that's a really good question. I think that, yes, the individual can think about the memory itself consciously, but I also think that this could be a mechanism that applies also to unconscious memory. So even if you're not specifically thinking about that memory and you're not trying to heal that memory, maybe it's a process that just happens naturally.
Hi.
Hi.
I was just wondering, why is it that you need sigma-1, as everything that you described could be described as well as a cascade promoted by 5-HT2A receptors? So why is it that you need sigma-1? And the second question relates to that, which is serotonin, and it's also associated with bad memories. So how is it that you associate a neurotransmitter with what you're calling a good memory?
Okay. For the first question, I think that not necessarily you need sigma-1 receptor activation, but I think that since it is such a strong component of the ayahuasca experience, I believe that it does have an effect on the retrieval of this memory and on the healing of the memory itself. So I think that possibly you don't need a sigma-1 receptor for all of this to happen. But I think that from the studies and from the evidence, I think that it does play a major role in these anti-amnesic and healing effects. Regarding the serotonin, that's a very good point, that also bad memories can be associated with serotonin. The answer is I don't really know. My idea is that if there is a high concentration of dopamine and serotonin together, that could be why the memory actually is re-experienced in a different way. But the answer is I'm not really sure.
Hello, Antonio. It was marvelous, your speech. And I was wondering here, one thing is, I imagine that the environment in which these memories could be reconsolidated could be a therapeutic set in which the therapist must conduct the experience in a very cozy environment, like a mother carrying a baby with the patient, right? To reconsolidate in the secure environment, comfortable environment. I imagine that. So, and another thing that I can think is that in your proposal, perhaps ayahuasca could not be could not be used in a doses with high psychedelic effects, but could be tried with a lower dose, I imagine, to have more linear access to these traumatic memories. What do you think?
Okay, that's a very good question. I'll start from the second one. I think that probably to introduce ayahuasca in the clinical setting, high doses which create a strong psychedelic effect is not necessarily the way that would be accepted, because talking to many psychiatrists and many doctors, they would just think that that's not what you do in the hospital. So I think that as a general consensus and as a way for ayahuasca to be accepted in the clinics, probably low doses, it's the way to go. It might be that you need more sessions, more low doses sessions to achieve the same results. It might be that you cannot achieve the same results with low doses because maybe it's a mechanism that it's only triggered in high doses. But I think that to try and bring ayahuasca in the clinical setting in a widespread sense of the conversation, you probably need low doses. The other question, the first question, I think, like you say, that the setting is very important. I think that one aspect, one comforting aspect that you were talking about, like the mother or like the nurse that helps the person through the process, I think one of these aspects comes from ayahuasca itself, like a nurturing, motherly aspect. But I also think that it is very important to have a supportive setting. I think it's important to have before, during, and after help and guidance. So this could be done with psychotherapy, with physical therapy, like all kind of physical healing. So I think that it's important to not only think of ayahuasca as a magic bullet that can fix everything, but something that needs to be helped and associated with other aspects of the healing process. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Thank you, Antonio.
Thanks, everyone.
As the next speaker, I invite Lucas Maia from the State University on Campinas to present a study on the safety and efficacy of ayahuasca ritual use in the treatment of alcohol abuse. Lucas, the word is yours.
Good morning, everyone. So, my name is Lucas Maia. I am very happy to be here today to share with you this project. This project will be my doctoral thesis. And I ask you permission to read the presentation and apologize because the English is not so good. Well, this project will be conducted at the State University of Campinas, Unicamp, but is a collaboration between multiple researchers from different institutions. Many of them are present here today. And these researchers and institutions comprise the Interdisciplinary Cooperation for Ayahuasca Research and Outreach, ICARO, led by Professor Luis Fernando Toffoli, who is also here today. We would like to thank all those who contributed in any way to the construction of this project and all of you present here today. The study is in its initial stage, so that the purpose of this talk is to present and discuss the study rationale and design. I'm not showing you results. The presentation is divided in 4 parts, and starting with the introduction. So why to study ayahuasca ritual use as a treatment for alcohol use disorder? First of all, alcohol use disorder is a worldwide health issue. According to the World Health Organization, about 6% of all global deaths were attributable to alcohol consumption in 2020. Alcohol harmful use is a component cause of more than 200 disease and injury conditions in individuals, most notably liver cirrhosis, cancers, injuries, and alcohol dependence. In Brazil, 12 to 17% of the population, almost 30 million people, meets criteria for alcohol use disorder, including abuse and dependence. However, currently available treatments have limited efficacy and application. In this context, epidemiological evidence indicates reduction in alcohol consumption among ritual users of ayahuasca. For example, Grob and collaborators 1996 found that among a randomly selected group of União do Vegetal, UDV, members, a majority reported a prior history of moderate to severe problems with alcohol or other drugs, but all had stopped using substance other than ayahuasca after joining the church and attributed their improved health behaviors to ayahuasca drinking. Also, Fábregas and collaborators and Barbosa and collaborators found higher past use but lower use of alcohol during the preceding 30 days among UDV or Santo Daime members, compared with matched controls from the community. And Thomas and collaborators 2013 conducted the first observational study evaluating ayahuasca in the treatment of addiction. A comparison of pre-treatment and 6-month follow-up found improvements in cognitive and behavioral measures associated with declines in self-reported use of alcohol, tobacco, and cocaine that participants attributed to the 2-session ayahuasca retreat. Furthermore, Recent preclinical studies have demonstrated that ayahuasca inhibits early behaviors associated with the initiation and development of alcohol addiction, and also showed effectiveness in reversing long-term alcohol effects as expression in mice. Nevertheless, to our knowledge, controlled clinical studies on ayahuasca therapeutic potential for alcohol problematic use have not been conducted so far. Therefore, this study aims to contribute to mitigate this gap through a controlled clinical trial, whose the main objective is to evaluate the safety and efficacy of ayahuasca ritual use as an adjunctive therapeutic agent in the treatment of alcohol use disorder. About the method. The study participants will be recruited from an outpatient substance use treatment service from the Unicampus University Hospital. They will be male subjects aged between 21 to 65 years old with alcohol use disorder diagnosed according to DSM-5 criteria. Participants will be excluded if screening shows presence of exclusionary medical or psychiatric conditions, that is kidney, liver, or heart disease, psychosis, suicidal ideation, bipolar disorder, or severe symptoms of depression or anxiety. Also, current use of selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, medications, or monoamine oxidase inhibitors. Or addiction medications like disulfiram, naltrexone, and acamprosate. Clinical indication for hospitalization or treatment of withdrawal symptoms, or history of using ayahuasca. The rituals will be conducted by Centro Beneficente União do Vegetal, known as UDV, a Brazilian religion founded in 1961 by José Gabriel da Costa, known in UDV as Mestre Gabriel. Currently, there are estimated to be approximately 20,000 UDV members in South and North America and Europe. UDV subscribes to Christian principles in addition to beliefs regarding reincarnation. Rituals last approximately 4 hours, the tea being served at the beginning of the ceremony. And the substance ayahuasca, named in UDV as ayahuasca or vegetal, will be provided by UDV. A high-performance liquid chromatography analysis will be performed to quantify the main ayahuasca compounds, armine, armaline, tetrahydroamine, armol, and dimethyltryptamine. The dose administered to the participants will be based on this prior phytochemistry analysis. We estimate similar to 150 ml or to 200 ml. And the study design. So, after recruitment and written consent assigned, participants will be distributed into 2 randomized groups, the control group and the intervention group, each one with 30 persons. After the initial assessment, control group will receive the regular outpatient treatment, and the intervention group will attend 5 ayahuasca ritual sessions in addition to the same regular outpatient treatment. Following the treatment, there will be a final assessment and follow-up assessments 3, 6, and 12 months after treatment. This is an open-label study, so there is no blindness or placebo. And regarding the assessments, efficacy will be assessed through the following instruments: the alcohol smoking and substance involvement screening tests, ASSIST, developed for the World Health Organization to detect and manage substance use and related problems; the short-form alcohol dependence data, which evaluates the severity of alcohol dependence; and the PAN alcohol craving scale that assesses frequency, intensity, and duration of thoughts about drinking, desire to drink, and difficulty to resist in the last week. Safety will be assessed by presence or absence of related adverse events during and after sessions, and through clinical and laboratory tests to be performed at baseline and after the intervention. In addition, participants will be asked to fulfill a daily record with few questions about his or her alcohol consumption and adverse events. Furthermore, the following instruments will be used as indicators of ayahuasca ritual use effects on characteristics associated with alcohol use disorder. That is, the back and the back depression and the back and side inventory, which evaluate symptomatic manifestations of depression and anxiety, the positive and negative affect schedule, related to how the individual feels his emotional state at the time that responds to the scale, and the World Health Organization quality of life breath, proposed by the WHO to quantify the individual's perception about different aspects related to their quality of life. Finally, the subjective effects of ayahuasca will be investigated through the Brazilian versions of the Mystical Experience Questionnaire and the Hallucinogen Rating Scale. We are also planning to do some biological measures. For this purpose, blood collections will be carried out to examine concentrations of neurotrophic biomarkers, including the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, the glial cell-derived neurotrophic factor, and the nerve growth factor. Recent evidence indicates an association between these neurotrophic factors and the response to treatment of substance use disorders. Okay. There was a slide talking about the statistical analysis, but we will compare groups before treatment and after treatment. And about the progress, this project was selected for a grant on alternative pharmacological treatments for drug addiction, provided by the Brazilian National Secretariat of Drug Policy from the Justice Ministry. We have submitted the study protocol to the Unicamp's Ethics Research Committee, which approved it with minor revisions. We have also started the standardization of the analytical protocol for ayahuasca compounds quantification, and we estimate that transfer of funds will take place within the 3 months, so that the study can begin at early 2017. So we would like to thank all of you once again for being here. Thank you. And we will appreciate any questions, comments, critiques, or suggestions. Muito obrigado.
Any questions for Lucas?
Thanks, Lucas. Where are you investigating the BDNF and other markers? Is it in the blood of the patients?
In the blood.
Okay. And are you thinking of also studying the levels of inflammatory markers or just neurotrophic factors?
Yeah, we talked about a little bit about investigating something related to the immune system, but now we are, and the funds we have is just to get the kits for the neurotrophic factors, but maybe we can change and something before the study starts, so we could talk better after. Okay.
Lucas, thank you. 3 quick questions. The first one is, why just males? Why you're recruiting only males? The second one is that you've mentioned that you're gonna decide which dose each people will drink based on the psychoanalytical analysis. So I was just wondering if you could go a little bit more into that, because I was just trying to understand what is going to be the gold standard for it to say. So what is it that you're going to use from the psychoanalytical analysis to decide what is the dose? And the third question is, if you're already going through the hassle of selecting a control group, how come you're not considering having a placebo treatment to this group? I mean, you have the group, you're going to follow the group, you have everything. So I was just wondering, even if it is not a placebo in the sense that you're not controlling for the setting, you're not taking these people to a ceremony, but if you control for expectancy, and if you tell them that they're going through an alternative treatment, then I think you'd have a study without much more work to do with your study, but with an outcome of the study that might give more, a more interesting set of conclusions.
Yes, thank you, Professor Draulio. So, about the first question, just males. Yes. The main reason is because in the outpatient service we have the majority of the people who search treatment is males. Yes, and also this is a first study. We choose to limit the variance. So there are some issues relating females also in the rituals and the cycle. So putting together these factors, we decided to the first study do it with males, but I agree that it's important to do with the both genders. So I would like to see like a pilot study. Is not a pilot study, but we can do it better after this first study. And about the doses, yeah, it's a controversial thing, I think. Some studies have based the dose in the DMT concentration, but I don't know if we agree all of this. We think that there is other compounds. It's also important. So actually, we are talking about that. We were with the phytochemistry analysis. We can have a better idea of the concentration of DMT and the other principles and calculate the quantity in mLs. But we should talk about what you think about that too, and choose the better way to standardize the dose. And the last question. the placebo, yes. Yeah. Another question that we are talking about, for sure, in this study, there will be not a placebo. This is a project divided in two studies, actually. Paulo Morais, who is here, will present the other one. That is a placebo-controlled clinical trial. And the patients will get the substance in the laboratory. This question about the placebo in psychedelic studies is a little bit difficult, at minimum, because actually in many times patients know after getting the substance what is ingesting. There are few issues with the UDV also to people who is not ingesting ayahuasca in the rituals. And we talked about giving a low doses and a normal doses. As a low doses as an active placebo. This is a possibility, but we are thinking about if this will not to see a significant difference if the low doses, because this is varies very much each person. So we basically are showing if it's better to don't do a placebo or this active placebo or not. So there are many open questions that we will discuss. I appreciate it's very important questions, and we can talk later. Thank you.
I have one more. Sorry. Over here.
Wow.
Hello. I apologize for my English too. I've been working for quite a few years with Colombian indigenous tribes in Amazon. And one of the biggest problems we found there is alcoholism between the indigenous people. Also with people who use ayahuasca for all their life, and it's a part of the culture. Have you thought about conducting a study like this between people who use ayahuasca frequently?
That's an interesting question. I don't know. I think that the context is very important, and all the intentions and involved in this process, the therapeutic process is not just the ayahuasca. So basically, I don't know. I have to think about that. Thank you.
I was just wondering if you're considering looking for an upregulation in serotonin transporters among your measurements, because in the first UDV study that we did, that was a key finding, or at least we thought it was, that long-term users had a significant upregulation in the transporters compared to controls who were not UDV members, because it seems that there's a correlation between deficits in these transporters and certain kinds of alcoholism, type 2 alcoholism. So that would be, it seemed like a significant finding at the time. That would be a measure you could add, and I wonder what you have to say about that.
Yes. Thank you for the question, Professor Dennis. Yeah, we one time have discussed about that. this is a very interesting to study, to look. I am not sure if this time we will have condition to do this analysis, maybe with collaboration or something. But if we have the opportunity, for sure, that is important thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucas. I know we could discuss even more, but time is pressing, so we have to move on. As next, I would like to invite to the microphone Eduardo Marinho from the Universidad Estadual de Santa Cruz, Ilhéus, Bahia, to present a study on the anti-addictive properties of ayahuasca in mice. The presentation will be in Portuguese language. Eduardo, the stage is yours.
Gostaria de agradecer, primeiramente, pela oportunidade de estar aqui apresentando o meu trabalho para vocês. Então, eu vou falar sobre os efeitos da ayahuasca no desenvolvimento da sensibilização comportamental e no tratamento pós-sensibilização em camundongos. Esse trabalho foi publicado na Physiology and Behavior em 2015, como citado pelo Lucas. Bom, vou falar um pouquinho para vocês sobre a dependência. Então, a dependência ela pode ser definida como um conjunto de fatores comportamentais, cognitivos e fisiológicos que se desenvolve no sujeito após o uso repetido de uma substância psicoativa. Esse desenvolvimento ela passa por etapas, e essas etapas elas envolvem principalmente duas fases distintas. Uma mais impulsiva, onde nós temos um fenômeno de reforço positivo, com um aumento progressivo das concentrações, principalmente de dopamina, no sistema mesolímbico, levando à repetição do uso da droga. Posteriormente, com o passar do tempo, o sujeito passa a apresentar uma redução das concentrações de dopamina, principalmente quando ele deixa de fazer o uso da droga de abuso. Com isso, ele entra numa fase que nós chamamos de reforço negativo, e ele passa a continuar repetindo o uso da droga para evitar os sintomas negativos, principalmente esse estado emocional negativo que aparece em função do aumento dos glicocorticoides, da ativação do eixo hipotálamo-hipófise suprarrenal, enfim, uma série de condições que acaba levando ele a apresentar essas duas fases distintas. Uma fase inicial de reforço positivo, mediada principalmente pelo aumento da liberação de dopamina e por um estado hedônico, e depois, numa segunda fase, ele passa a entrar no que nós chamamos de estado de reforço negativo, que foi idealizado, foi mostrado pelo George Kubi, né, levando a essa passagem da impulsão para a compulsão, onde ele passa, então, a se tornar um dependente. Uma vez isso acontecendo, estruturas envolvidas, principalmente no sistema límbico, elas ficam reativas e, de uma certa forma, essas estruturas aprendem ou vinculam determinados pareamentos ambientais, seja com pessoas, objetos, coisas que levam funcionam como verdadeiros gatilhos. Ou seja, uma vez se estabelecendo esse processo de formação da droga-adição, o que nós vamos observar é que o sujeito, diante dessas pistas, ele passa a responder como um dependente. Bom, uma vez feita essa breve ilustração sobre a dependência, então a pergunta é: por que se usar a ayahuasca no tratamento da droga-adição? Bom, em princípio, não só os dados da literatura indicam que os usuários da ayahuasca apresentam um menor índice de dependência, né, ou não apresentam, ou apresentam um menor índice, e muitos deixam de ser dependentes uma vez que passam a fazer o uso da mesma. Então, diante disso, nós achamos que seria interessante se fazer esse estudo no modelo animal. Os modelos animais, eles são interessantes do ponto de vista que eles permitem que você veja algumas coisas que no humano é um pouco mais complicado. Não foi o caso desse trabalho, mas nós conseguimos avaliar expressão proteica, expressão gênica, que no caso dos humanos é um pouco mais difícil devido às amostras que você tem que ter, né? Principalmente quando você estuda o tecido cerebral. Bom, o modelo utilizado foi a sensibilização comportamental, que é um modelo que nós utilizamos aonde o animal é exposto repetidamente a uma mesma dose de uma droga e ele apresenta um comportamento progressivamente, ele vai aumentando progressivamente, mesmo recebendo uma mesma dose. Nesse caso aqui, está demonstrada a locomoção. Então, em dias, no caso aqui, intermitentes, ele recebeu a primeira dose, depois uma segunda dose, e assim sucessivamente, e se observa que a atividade locomotora do animal, cada vez que ele recebe uma dose nova, ele passa a andar cada vez mais. Por que esse modelo é interessante? Ele é interessante pelo seguinte: os dados da literatura mostram que o modelo da sensibilização comportamental, onde nós avaliamos a hiperatividade locomotora no processo de sensibilização, ele tem um paralelo em termos de estruturas encefálicas com o que nós chamamos de craving nos humanos, que é o desejo compulsivo pela droga. Ou seja, você tem uma ativação do sistema mesolímbico, um aumento da liberação de dopamina, e isso faz com que o indivíduo apresente esse fenômeno. Então, essas alterações plásticas que acontecem no sistema nervoso são mediadas tanto no processo da sensibilização comportamental, quanto também no processo do craving em humanos. No nosso trabalho, nós, então, utilizamos uma ayahuasca que foi doada gentilmente pelo pessoal da seita do Santo Daime e nós submetemos essa ayahuasca a uma dosagem que foi feita pelo Instituto de Criminalística de São Paulo e nós obtivemos essas dosagens dos principais componentes, no caso DMT, a tetrahidroarmina, a armina e a armalina. Os animais utilizados foram camundongos, originários do biotério da Universidade de Brás Cubas, e todas as normas internacionais e nacionais para a criação e manutenção desses animais foram respeitadas. Esse projeto ele foi submetido a um comitê de ética de animais e foi aprovado. O protocolo experimental foi o seguinte: nós, no primeiro momento, levamos os animais à habituação ao ambiente, uma vez que, quando se trata de um ambiente novo, o animal tende a apresentar um comportamento excitado, fazendo com que ele ande mais. Bom, para evitar esse viés, nós fizemos essa habituação, verificando a sua locomoção no segundo dia, verificando que estava bem homogênea. Uma vez feito isso, no terceiro dia, nós iniciamos com a administração de ayahuasca em diferentes doses ou salina e submetemos esses animais ao modelo do Open Field por 10 minutos para observação da atividade locomotora. Uma vez vista essa atividade locomotora por 10 minutos, os animais foram retirados, um a um, né? Foi colocado um por vez no campo aberto, e aí, uma vez saindo do campo aberto, eles receberam, em seguida, uma dose de álcool 1,8 gramas por quilo ou salina. É importante falar que o grupo salina, ele é um grupo com um N maior de animais, uma vez que ele vai ser desmembrado em grupos menores posteriormente. Depois disso, os animais foram observados novamente por 10 minutos, e aí, 7 dias depois, eles foram desafiados com salina ou etanol uma semana depois. Como resultado desse experimento, nós observamos que lá na primeira fase, onde nós demos salina ou ayahuasca nas diferentes doses, não foi verificada alteração da atividade locomotora durante os primeiros 10 minutos. Então, nem a ayahuasca em nenhuma dessas doses, nem a salina promoveu modificação da atividade locomotora. Foi uma atividade locomotora basal. Uma vez esses animais saindo dessa fase de experimento, receberam então etanol ou salina. Como eu havia falado, esse grupo que partiu de 30 animais foi desmembrado em 2. Esse aqui ficou com 20, esse ficou com 10. Sendo que esse recebeu salina novamente, esse recebeu etanol, e todos aqueles que haviam recebido ayahuasca receberam etanol. Observamos que esse grupo que é o que havia recebido salina, tem uma atividade locomotora aumentada, né? E aqueles que receberam ayahuasca nas doses menores apresentaram uma atividade locomotora semelhante a esse aqui. No entanto, as duas doses mais altas de ayahuasca, de 300 e 500 miligramas por quilo, produziram uma redução no efeito agudo do etanol. Uma semana depois, novamente, o grupo que havia 20 agora aqui foi desmembrado em 2 grupos, tendo agora 2 grupos de 10. Então, esse grupo recebeu salina novamente, esse segundo recebeu etanol pela primeira vez, e o grupo preto recebeu etanol pela segunda vez, apresentando já inicialmente esse fenômeno de sensibilização comportamental por dose única. Né? E os outros grupos que haviam recebido ayahuasca inicialmente e depois etanol já uma vez, receberam etanol novamente, e todos apresentaram uma atividade locomotora semelhante àquele que recebeu etanol pela primeira vez, diferente do que recebeu etanol pela segunda vez. No segundo experimento, nós novamente fizemos aquela habituação, e depois, num segundo time, nós fizemos aqui uma exposição de 15 dias intermitentes com salina ou etanol. Sempre que você tem o OFQ, é Open Field Quantification. Então, nesse período, nós fizemos o que nós chamamos de condicionamento, né, o desenvolvimento da sensibilização comportamental, e depois de um dia aqui, terminada essa sensibilização, nós, então, tratamos com ayahuasca nas doses de 100 ou 300 miligramas por quilo, e também com veículo. Depois de 4 dias de intervalo, fizemos um desafio salina, e depois de 2 dias, um desafio etanol. Como resultados, inicialmente nós vemos esses 3 grupos receberam salina, tanto aqui visto no primeiro dia, quanto no 15º dia. Então, durante aqueles 15 dias, manteve-se a atividade locomotora desses animais. No entanto, aqueles que receberam etanol, né, eles começaram com essa atividade locomotora aqui, e observamos que 15 dias depois eles apresentam um aumento da atividade locomotora, apresentando, então, o fenômeno da sensibilização comportamental, o desenvolvimento da sensibilização comportamental. Isso é um indicativo de dependência. Depois, durante 8 dias, tratamos, então, com a salina ou ayahuasca na dose de 100 ou 300 mg por quilo. Tanto os grupos que foram tratados inicialmente com salina, quanto os grupos que foram tratados inicialmente com etanol. Verificamos que não há uma atividade locomotora aumentada, eles ficam basais, né? Depois, no desafio salina, também não verificamos uma modificação da atividade locomotora, lembrando que isso aqui foi feito 4 dias depois do último dia de ayahuasca, e muitos dias depois aqui da última de etanol. É importante falar que esse experimento, essa parte do experimento, ela é feita porque algumas drogas de abuso, elas promovem um efeito que é o comportamento condicionado. O animal responde ao campo aberto tomando salina como se tivesse tomado droga de abuso. Então, a gente faz essa fase do teste aqui para verificar se ele não está expressando esse comportamento condicionado. E depois, no desafio etanol, esses grupos aqui que receberam salina a vida toda, recebem etanol pela primeira vez, mostrando atividade locomotora basal, né, do etanol, como você consegue ver aqui, mais ou menos é igual ao que está aqui. É recebido pela primeira vez. Já aqui, nós observamos, então, a expressão da sensibilização comportamental e, acho que cortou um pedaço aqui. Aqui tem as 2 doses, acreditem em mim, está cortado ali, mas o que nós observamos foi que os animais que haviam sido previamente tratados com ayahuasca não expressaram a sensibilização comportamental, indicando, então, que essa ayahuasca foi eficiente em fazer com que o animal previamente, que já havia desenvolvido essa sensibilização, quando nós tratamos posteriormente com a ayahuasca, ela foi eficiente também em reduzir essa sensibilização. Bom, como achados principais, nós temos o seguinte: nós observamos que quando a ayahuasca foi dada junto com o etanol, nas doses mais altas, ela promoveu uma redução do efeito agudo do álcool, né? Na sensibilização por dose única, ela promoveu uma inibição do desenvolvimento da sensibilização por dose única em todas as doses testadas, né? No tratamento prolongado com ayahuasca, nós não verificamos nenhum tipo de sensibilização induzida pela ayahuasca durante esse período, e também, aqui, o mais importante, que pós desenvolvimento da sensibilização, nós observamos que a ayahuasca foi eficiente em reverter esse efeito de desenvolvimento da sensibilização, fazendo com que esses animais deixassem de apresentar o fenômeno da sensibilização. Os mecanismos através dos quais isso pode estar acontecendo são vários. Nós estamos agora na segunda fase do projeto estudando isso, mas, hipoteticamente, isso pode acontecer através tanto do DMT atuando em receptores 5-HT2, principalmente no córtex pré-frontal, através de uma alça glutamatérgica que atua na área ventral do tegmento mesencefálico, mediando a liberação de dopamina no sistema límbico. Então, essa é uma possibilidade. A ativação do 5-HT2 é semelhante ao que acontece com o uso de neurolépticos atípicos, por exemplo, né? Mais ou menos um mecanismo semelhante. Outra possibilidade seria através dos próprios inibidores das beta-carbolinas. O que acontece é que nossa experiência com dependência mostra que o pós-tratamento na dependência, ela precisa ter um componente dopaminérgico. É muito difícil você conseguir sucesso num tratamento de álcool se você não tiver um componente que seja estimulador. Quando você pega e faz um tratamento que não estimula a pessoa, ou no caso o animal, a ter um estímulo, um comportamento positivo, geralmente esse tratamento não funciona. Muito obrigado.
Questions?
É uma possibilidade.
Mas o que você acha do potencial papel também das beta-caroteninas?
Sim.
Agonista parcial de dopamina.
Sim, então essa... Perdão.
E a outra é em relação à sensibilização inicial, né?
Sim.
Fizeram ayahuasca.
No experimento 1 ou no 2?
E que doses mais altas? Ayahuasca,
O efeito agudo do etanol diminuiu. Bom, vamos primeira pergunta. Então, a primeira pergunta foi mesmo? Beleza. Existe essa possibilidade, sim, sem dúvida nenhuma. As beta-carbolinas, elas não só têm essa possível atuação como mediando uma atuação em receptor dopaminérgico, mas também tem o próprio papel no aumento da liberação, na disponibilização da dopamina na fenda sináptica. Então, ela estaria também atuando. É isso que a gente está trabalhando agora. Nesse experimento que a gente está fazendo agora, eu só mudei o modelo, mas é exatamente isso que eu estou estudando. Se tem um papel sozinho do DMT, sozinho da beta-carbolina, ou o que é mais provável, que é uma somatória dos dois. A segunda pergunta, eu te garanto que não é um efeito sedativo, porque se fosse efeito sedativo, teria aparecido quando eu dei sem nada, dei a ayahuasca sozinha. Então, ela teria aparecido já previamente, antes de eu dar o álcool. Agora, o que não dá para eu te afirmar é que isso é um efeito sobre o mecanismo do álcool, ou se é um mecanismo compensatório, o que pode ser. O álcool fala para aumentar o firing, e, eventualmente, a ayahuasca naquela situação faz diminuir o firing. Entendeu? Então, pode ser uma atuação indireta, mas na presença dos dois juntos, o que a gente consegue observar é que, realmente, nas doses maiores, ela conseguiu diminuir o efeito agudo do álcool. Obrigado.
Obrigada, Eduardo. Last but not least, I invite Bruno Lobao from the Federal University of Rio Grande do Norte to present a study on the action of MEO-DMT on anxiety and memory in rats.
Thank you. Thank you for all for staying here. Okay, we'll just begin. So, this is only the initial behavioral results of this study. We are just in the beginning that we will present. I will be brief. We started to study 5-meo-DMT. I don't know if I'm pronouncing well in English, MEO-DMT. I'm just talk about this molecule. is a little modification in the traditional DMT molecule, and this molecule is not is also found in plants, and mainly is found in a specific toad, is Bufo alvaris, and about the experience with this molecule. People usually they relate that the experience tend to be less visual than DMT with DMT, right? And they relate a kind of experience that they feel like a near-death experience, and a change in perspective shift. Perspective shift. This is the point that we have an oxygen atom of difference linked to a carbon, and this difference is responsible for the different effects of the traditional DMT. And what we found from literature, that the anxiolytic of antidepressive effect of DMT is well documented, but a few studies were conducted using male DMT. One of them was that male DMT, it can disrupt cortical function, and involves 5-HT1A and 5-HT2A agonism. Also has analgesic effects. And male DMT also decreased locomotor activity and investigatory behavior in rodents, and decreased locomotor activity in another study, and disrupted prepulse inhibition, that a paradigm that is studied in schizophrenia paradigms. However, it increased locomotor activity in Guinea pigs. Another study said that it decreased locomotor activity. Some people argue that perhaps it have a dual effect, depending on the doses that you can use in related to locomotor activity. And I did not find anything really related to memory or anxiety regarding male DMT. So our goal was to test, to make rats a little bit psychedelic using male DMT. And so we used Wistar adult male rats from the biotherium of my department, biophysics and pharmacology department. This work was also approved by ethics committee, and they were placed with controlled temperature and food and water ad libitum. So our goal was to test male DMT effect on locomotion, anxiety, and memory consolidation in Wistar rats through the paradigm of the discriminatory avoidance test. This was developed by a teacher in our university, Regina Silva, and this work is in collaboration with her. So in this paradigm, we have 2 days of testing the animals. And in the first day, we injected the drug, and immediately after the injection, we put the animal in the apparatus. So the apparatus they have aversive stimuli. So like we induced like a kind of traumatic memory in the rat. Not so traumatic, you will see. So the animal learned during the trial that one of the arm is aversive, and try to then at the end of the trial, the end of the time that he stays in the apparatus, to avoid that arm, that aversive arm. And in the second day, we retest. We put the animal again in the apparatus, and we imagine that the animal can remember which arm is the aversive, which arm is the not aversive arm, right? So we make the experiment in 2 following days. with one session, the first and the second session in the second, that we called, the first we called training session, and the second day, in the second day we call test session, right? Methods, so we implanted a cannula in the lateral ventricle of the animals. We first, 1 week before the experiment, we made this surgery, and the goal was to inject the male DMT diluted in DMSO and saline, and after we saw if the cannula was really implanted in the ventricle by blue, methylene blue. So in what consists the test? Again, we tried to produce a psychedelic rat, injecting male DMT, right? So in the first day, we have the injection right through the cannula of the substance, and 15 minutes after, we put the animal in the apparatus, right? You see here that the apparatus is conceived to test at the same time 2 things. It's conceived to test both anxiety parameters and memory parameters. And you're seeing, you have a laser pointer? Thank you very much. You're seeing here that you have a light and another thing here that is for the aversive stimuli. So in this arm here is to be interpreted by the animal, interpreted as aversive, and the other no. So you have these two arms here. They are open arms. So the rat feel comfortable in the closed arm, and not feel very comfortable here because the whiskers do not touch anything, and this is a more open space. And rats really prefer be in contact with something and more dark than light. And this is so considered in the paradigm as an anxiety factor, anxiety stimulus, and this is the aversive stimulus, the disarm here. So you can test both memory and anxiety. So this the open arms are the anxiogenic stimuli, and this arm. When the animal enter this arm, we press a button, and then 2 things happen. An aversive sound, right, and an intense light are put it on, right, and so the animal definitely do not he do not like this stimulus. So here we have the non-aversive arm, the fine arm, and here the aversive arm. So in the next day, the animal, we expect that the animal can remember which is which, who is who, which is aversive, which is the non-aversive arm. So we start in the second day with the same rat, not psychedelic really, because he not receive any injection of even of vehicle of meal DMT. And this is the 25 hours later than the first exposition. And then it is re-exposed to the same apparatus, the same labyrinth. It's a modification of the classical plus maze, right? And so, in the second day, we don't have any aversive stimuli, right, in this paradigm. So we expect that the animal can remember which arm is the aversive and stay more in the non-aversive arm in the second day and less in the aversive arm. if it can remember actually who is who, which is which. So groups where we injected with the animals with vehicle, saline, DMT, 1 microgram for microgram for microliter, 10 micrograms for microliters. Sorry, this here is like this. And for video analysis, 100 micrograms and 300 micrograms. For video analysis and statistical comparisons, we used Animaze software and GraphPad Prism 5. And for comparison among training or test groups, we used one-way ANOVA. For comparison inside each group in test and training session, we used parity tests. Also used for the 300 group t-tests, because we made it separately, where we'll explain why we did that. So the main results, we had, here we have this graph. This represents the memory paradigm, but in the training session, right? When the animal is injected with DMT and then it's placed in the apparatus. So it's in the first day of training, right? First day. So it shows sorry, this is here the MT1. Sorry. Shows that the animal can discriminate between the aversive arm is in black and the non-aversive arm. It can discriminate in any doses that you use. The animal can discriminate, right? So he learns in following DMT injection. He can learn during the trial session, right? Sorry, in the training session when he's trained to do. And then here is the same paradigm in the second day, in which you don't have aversive stimuli. So in this group, the animals could not discriminate between the aversive arm and the non-aversive arm. So we started with an effect of DMT injection, but this effect just occurred 24 hours later after injection. So we imagine that in the first day we have a kind of short memory. So DMT is not acting on short memory paradigm, but in long-term memory paradigm. Here we have training and test with duration of time in the open arms. We have an anxiety parameter. So what we found was that in 100 micrograms, we observed an effect that in which the animal stayed more time in the open arms than we observed in the control in the vehicle animals. But this occurred only in the test session, right? It occurred only in the test session, the second day of the experiments. So it occurred 24 hours after the injection of male DMT, not immediately after. So the animals had a reduction in anxiety only 24 hours after the injection, not immediately, right? These point to the same results. This is the time the animal enters at the end of the open arm that is considered to be the most pro-anxiety point in the labyrinth. So the animals reached with these doses, with 100 micrograms. The animals reached this point is considered to be more related to anxiety. but only 24 hours after injection. So we decided to conduct another test because with 300 milligrams by ml, it's the same micrograms by microliter. Because we had an indication of the possible results that we could have if we could higher the doses. So here, the animal, you have these two graphs were conducted in the first day, right? But we divided the time that the animals was exposed in three parts, from 0 to 200 seconds, from 200 to 400, and to 400 to 600 seconds. And what we observed is that in the first day, during the training session, the vehicle animals discriminated the arms. So they learned that they could not be in the aversive arm, only in the non-aversive arm. Same we observed with DMT. They learned that the aversive arm was not so good, right? And in the second day, considering vehicle animals, they also learned, they preserved the memory that made them stay in the non-aversive arms. But this not happen with the DMT injected with these doses, with 300 micrograms, right? So they could not remember which arm was the aversive and which arm was the non-aversive, right? So an interesting thing that is almost the same that happened with other doses happened here also. Only in the second day, the animals injected with DMT exhibited less anxiety, but not in the first day, right? Only in the second day, only in the trial session, the second exposition. And so what we can say from these results is that MIO-DMT did not interfere with short-term memory or aversive stimuli or with anxiety parameters in training sessions, right, in the first day. But in the test session, in the second day, the group MIO-DMT 10 and the MIO-DMT 300 did not disclose a discrimination between closed arms. Perhaps we have here or a memory acquisition impairment or a memory consolidation impairment provoked by DMT. But we are still not sure if we can talk about a memory impairment or we can talk about resignifying mechanism in which the animal does not interpret the aversive arm as aversive anymore. Yeah. So to write this paper, I will have this difficulty, right? Perhaps more experiments with positive stimuli. They can be performed if the animal can remember with the MT. Positive stimuli, like in exploring new objects, right, is another paradigm for memory. I can perhaps answer this question, that the animal is actually resignifying the aversive stimuli, or the DMT is acting in not possibility the rat to consolidate the memory or to acquire the memory. This is an opening question. And both MIO-DMT 100 and 300 disclosed less anxiety related parameters. So we have a delayed action after injection. So the DMT did not reduce anxiety immediately after injection. It reduced anxiety 24 hours after injection. This is significant because I think that in people you see these effects more clear in anxiety the days after the injection, right? And so this also happens in rats. And then so next steps could be we differentiate acquisition or consolidation. One thing is the drug acting on acquisition of the memory, and one different things is the animal can acquire, but the animal cannot consolidate the memory. So if we change the time points of DMT injection, we can better differentiate acquisition from consolidation. Another thing is that, for example, for memory, we had since 300 milligrams, we have a clear effect on memory. And we cannot say that male DMT or even DMT, they have a clear dose-response profile. Perhaps DMT could have an inverted U-shape profile of acting on memory, or can have a threshold profile. Since a given threshold, you can act on memory consolidation or memory resignificance. I don't know. This is an open question also. And also, we cannot really affirm that the results we got in the second day they are really anxiolytic. And an interesting experiment to really prove that is not expose the animal to the apparatus before, only expose 24 hours after applying male DMT. And perhaps doing open field immediately after injection to see the exploration and also other anxiety-related behavior immediately after injection. And I like to thank many people, some of them here, from Unifesp, Regina Silva, Alessandra Ribeiro, from Federal University of Natal, Draulio, Araujo, Richardson Leão, Ramon Hipólito, Fernanda Palhano, Dixon, my students, Juliane, Luiz Eduardo, and Sofia, that also collaborated in this study. Thank you very much. And also say that we are beginning studies with ayahuasca, the same ayahuasca that Draulio used in our study from depression. We are beginning to use this ayahuasca in marmosets in the model of depression, and in fish, also in the model of memory, anxiety, and depression. We are beginning to study ayahuasca in fish, putting ayahuasca in the aquarium. Right, we are beginning to test in other animals like that. And in marmoset, we are measuring in the blood peripheral markers of depression. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruno. So as we are running a little bit late, we have time for one single question.
You said that your design does not allow to discriminate if the rat you said your design doesn't allow to discriminate if the rat does not remember that he saw the aversive flash of light in the closed arm, or if he is just not afraid of it anymore after being high on DMT. So do you imagine an experiment that could discriminate between those two effects?
I imagine we can do, well, what I imagine to better clarify these results is you have another memory paradigm that is made with new objects that they can be considered as like positive reinforcement in memory and the memory task, because the animal has a drive to explore a new object, a toy. I like toys to do this paradigm. So I imagine that if the animal can, with 300 micrograms, they exhibit in an aversive task this kind of results, and if I test the animal in another paradigm of memory, and the animal can shows that he can actually discriminate a positive reinforcement. So the behavioral tests give us clues that only he's resignifying the aversive memory, not erasing actually the aversive memory, but resignifying. This is very crucial, and we are about to perform this experiment with new objects, only to clear that point, right? Thank you. Thank you for being here with Hungry. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the speakers. Thanks to the audience. Enjoy the lunch. Enjoy the conference. Thank you.